So I'm here to do two quick slots. The first one is telling you a bit about CLL Support. So we're here quite simply to inform, listen, communicate, support you and represent you. And you've got a picture here of all the conferences that we've had this year. So when we send out our information about conferences, Sarah, who's our fantastic administrator, finds wonderful pictures that we can put out so you can recognize when you're getting an invitation to take part in a conference, and this is where we've been this year. And that's a key part of our informing. And we do, as we know, broadcast our conferences on Zoom, and we also put the recordings online afterwards. And we make sure that we help you stay informed. So you've got here a picture of the website, you've got at the bottom pictures of 3 of our key publications, a booklet that we produce, a leaflet, a vaccination guide that we've just updated to keep it up to date with the latest information about exactly what you need to have now. And then at the bottom corner there's a picture of our newsletter that comes out every 3 months. And then just going up from that, there are 2 other aspects I wanted to emphasize to you. One is Recite Me. So on the website at the top right-hand corner, if you click there, it says Accessibility Tools. And if you want, you can change anything on our website, either the color of the background or the size of the font, or you can get it to talk to you, or you can get it to change it into any other language. So that's a fantastic resource. And we know quite a lot of clinical nurse specialists use it in order to describe the condition to their people with CLL that they're wanting to help that don't necessarily speak English as their first language. And then above that is our PIFTIC logo. So this is our logo that means we've passed all the tests to be able to say to you that we're providing information that's trustworthy, kept up to date, doing all the right sorts of things. So very proud of the ways that we help you stay informed with information that you can trust. And we do quite a lot on social media, as you can see from all the logos that we've got there. And very much here to support you. So these are ways that you can get in touch. We've got a helpline. We've got our Support Act resource that we were talking about, I think, earlier today, where there's an opportunity to join regular sessions. And I know several people here already do that. We've mentioned the webinars, the website. Health Unlocked is a community of more than 20,000 people across the world that are affected by CLL, who are able to share their issues and concerns and experiences with each other. And we're just towards the end of Blood Cancer Awareness Month, so hopefully you've been stunned by the 4 mini videos that we've sent round every Monday during the month so that you can see what we've been up to. So that's very much what we've been around doing to support you. And then we're very, very keen on the importance of representing you. So we've talked this morning about the UK CLL Forum. So there's Adrian and 33 other Adrians or equivalents on the UK CLL Forum Executive Committee. And I actually sit on that as the chair of CLL Support. So this is a fantastic opportunity to be able to work with the people that are at the forefront of the developments of treatment for CLL. We work with the CLLAN is a global body that John's going to mention a bit later on, Blood Cancer UK, Cancer 52, other bodies in the UK. So we liaise with everybody to make sure that we know what's happening, whilst very much being there on behalf of you. I think it's important to emphasize that we are patient-led. So all our trustees either have or are affected, or their partner has, CLL. And so we're very much, we're the ones that Adrian said he couldn't speak on behalf of because he wasn't a patient. Well, we're collectively speaking on behalf of all of you, and we very much feel we do represent that. And I'm going to talk in just a minute a bit more about the STAR initiative, so I won't mention that here. And in ending, I just want to comment on our fantastic team of trustees, and I just want to recognize the people in the room. So our vice chair is Peter over here, whom you've obviously met. Our previous vice chair is John, whom you've met. We have Heather in the middle of the back row, who's one of our associates, is going to be looking after a table a bit later on in the breakout room. We've got Cherry, one of our staff, in the back right-hand corner there. And we've got Jez, who's a new associate of ours over there, and we've got Anthea here. So each table has on it somebody who's either a trustee or an associate of CLL Support. And one of the things I'm most pleased in saying to you is that on the front left-hand table here, we have the new treasurer of CLL Support, Steve Rawlings. So, so some of you will know that I've been appealing for a treasurer for quite some time. I'm an accountant, so I've been having to do that as well as being chair, and we've got a fantastic team that do loads of the work, but nevertheless there's a role, and I'm just so pleased that we've got Steve, and indeed Penny, his wife, to sort of join our team and help make us complete. So we've now got 10 trustees. And as I think John mentioned earlier, we're funded by donations, fundraising, and sponsorship from pharmaceutical companies. And if you want to get involved in all sorts of ways here, we've got our surveys that we send out occasionally. We've got a register that I'm just about to tell you a bit more about. And if you want to help any more, have a word with Cherry or Sarah, or drop a line to them afterwards and ask them to pass on your messages, which they will do to whichever trustee is most appropriate. So I know this afternoon we're going to be a bit hectic talking. We might not get a chance to see everybody about everything, but nevertheless, do get in touch if you'd like to do any more to help us. So thank you all for your support and for being here today. So Rachel, the clinical nurse specialist this morning, at the beginning of the morning, I said, you're going to enjoy this. She said, oh, okay, yes. She thought, well, Hilary's just saying this. And by lunchtime, she said, that was amazing. It was fantastic, being with all these people that are part of the CLL community and meeting them. And this is the response that we get from people, from the clinicians like Adrian and the clinical nurse specialists like Rachel. They really love to come and meet our community and see what things are like for us, so that they can go on helping us in the best way possible. And then my second few slides are just about STAR. So this is all about public or patient and public involvement and engagement in research. So this is PPIE, although it tends to get shortened to PPI. And no research these days will happen, no clinical trials will happen, unless the people that approve them from an ethical point of view are convinced that there is enough patient voice in the presentation and that they have truly talked to the patient community about what they're wanting to do, and that it's a treatment that the patient community feel they would benefit from. So they just can't come up with any old idea and say, we're going to do this. It has to be something that the community feels is relevant. And so we're trying really hard to be more proactive in this space. And so we came up with STAR as our name. We knew that to have credibility in the medical world, you've got to have an acronym. So that's why we've got STAR. So we came up with Studies, Trials and Research. We came up with it just as a sort of, well, let's just see how we go with it at the beginning of the first meeting. And it's still there 18 months later. So I think that's our name. And very much about having greater focus. And this slide here mentions 4 ways that we're doing that: through promoting what matters to you, making connections, convening you, and informing. And I'm just going to speak briefly to each of those. So first of all, promoting what matters to you. So we began by doing some finding out what matters, and we found out from our last survey that fatigue is a big issue. And you had Adrian talking about fatigue this morning and mentioning an article that I'm going to come and mention in a minute as well. So this is something we're trying to do something about. You told us about the fatigue. We asked you what were the issues. You said fatigue's an issue. So we're doing our absolute best to draw it to the attention of the medical community and get them to respond in an appropriate way to our collective concerns. You've also got on this slide a picture of a hand. We developed 5 things that mattered to us about PPI. So we felt it had to be embedded into applications right from the beginning. It had to be very respectful. It had to involve effective communication. It had to respond to what patients needed, and it needed to encompass quality of life. And there's one thing you need to do before you leave this afternoon, just to remind you about the hand. And Cherry, who's right by the door, can you just wave your hands in the air? The other way round, thank you. So Cherry's nails are actually painted in the CLL colours. So that's something you can have a look at on the way out, and it'll remind you about our hand. The next area is about connecting to influence. So we work really closely with the UK CLL Forum. So I'm actually next Thursday and Friday. They have 2 days of meetings, and I'm at both those days representing all of us. So that's fantastic. So that's their forum and then their trials group. We work very closely with pharmaceutical companies, the ones that provide treatments for CLL. And we make sure that if people ask us about ideas they've got for doing research, we'll give feedback on them, but also we'll share what we're finding out. So the chart on here is our chart that was asking you about symptoms. And the big slide, or the big bar on the left-hand side of it, is actually how many of you said you suffered from fatigue. And it was over half of you that replied, whether you were on active monitoring or on treatment or in remission. So this is why we've been shouting about fatigue fairly seriously. Then, in order to convene and involve you, we've got our conferences, we've got our webinars, but we've now set up a PPIE register that we launched a few months ago, and now we've got over 130 of you have signed up to the register, which is fantastic. And it means that when people ask us for the views of our community, we can actually say to people on the register, would you like to let us have your views? And we did actually write out to 99 people on the register recently to help us develop some of the work we're doing on fatigue. And 69 of you replied, so that's 70%. So every time I say we've had a survey response of 70, well, I can see nods around the room. This is just phenomenal. And it demonstrates to the medical community that we need to be listened to, because this matters to our community and they're engaging with the whole issue. And what we're also doing, the final bullet point here, is we're running 2 webinars in October, 2 sessions where you can find out more about PPIE. So there's one about it in theory and one about it in practice. And I'm delighted that two people with CLL from our group are going to be not quite taking on, but having exchanges with Dr. Martinez-Calais, who's the chair of the UK CLL Forum, and Dr. Ben Kennedy, who's somebody that speaks at many of our events and is a long-term friend of CLL Support. So we've got those 2 coming up. You'll get mailings round about them, but those are the 2 dates in October, and you come to both of them. And the idea is that if we want to get more involved in PPIE, we actually need to make sure we understand enough about it so we can respond properly to opportunities and so on. And very early days, we don't quite know how it's all going to work out, but just so far, the buzz around it is fantastic. And the clinicians can't wait to talk to us about it, so that really is good news. And then we've got in progress a website, so that's coming up soon. And then I just wanted to mention before I end it, so this is one of our recent successes. So this is actually what Professor Bloor was talking about when he talked about the research around fatigue and exercise. So this particular piece of work that was done at Surrey was done by saying, please can we ask members of CLL Support if they'll fill in a questionnaire about their exercise habits. So that's actually where all the data came from, that was then turned into that paper that was published in the European Hematology Association online journal, so fantastic place to be seen. And it was also covered in The Independent, for example, so you've got a headline here, the small change that could ease symptoms for blood cancer patients. And the small change is actually just taking a bit more exercise. So that's the big silver bullet, if you like, that we're busy finding out about. So that's the research that we were involved with, and at least 2 of us in this room have been involved since then in an exercise trial at the University of Surrey. So we're very familiar now with resistance bands and static bikes and so on, aren't we, Penny? So, so that's been a really empowering project to be involved in, just helping to make a difference, a real difference to people with our condition.